Hello, folks. Back with you again. This time I'm going to be talking about another NoFX song, but we got too jealous against. So when I talked about Johnny Music before, it being like a gateway drug to all this other great punk music, really this one takes the cake. Because this song was much faster, really rocking, and it wasn't really like, any tricks about it, to write. With Johnny Music, you couldn't really tell it was about music unless you knew those lyrics, and how my friend Petey messed it up. But this one was very straight and transparent. He was singing about all these old records. He says it, this record merge is not gonna work. It's one of the lyrics in the song. So this album too came out. So the Rockin's Bush came out like 04. I think it's the summer of 04, like around the election era. The year before, in 03, when I was even younger, and I think it was like May or June of 03. And what was interesting about this one, so again, at this point, I'm like 14 years old, and I was barely getting into punk. The way I got it, I listened to a lot. It was always like rock or rap, and I started getting into rock, and it was bands like Guns N' Roses or Nirvana, a lot of Smashing Pumpkins, grunge stuff. And then I heard Blink, Green Day, Offspring, Sum 41. Those bands really kind of drew me in with the energy and the funniness, of those songs that kind of got me into punk. And so when I get on the family computer, try to search about punk rock and stuff, always the band that come up was like the Sex Pistols. And so the Sex Pistols was like the first like real band I ever really got into. And also they had like a real meaning too, like Blink, Green Day. They had more like personal songs and stuff, but I remember the Pistols was like the way that first song, Hits You Holidays and stuff, you sing about the Berlin Wall, like stuff that I was like, I read about that in history class. Like this was like stuff that was like really important. Um, God Save the Queen, then you can find out too, like God Save the Queen, Fascist Regime. It was like a #1 song that didn't have anything. And then it was like Anarchy, and we read like learn like what's Anarchy? And it was like, oh, it made sense. And fuck the whole system, no government at all. Those bands and the Clash, also Clash really, persuaded me. And then later I even got into just like, Crass and stuff as you start finding out Crass was way more in depth. Of course the Pistols were. But before that, I would go and I could buy these little Punkorama CDs. And again, the first one I got was Punkorama 5, and then Punkorama 3, and NoFX was on there. NoFX was big. I remember I'd see people, NoFX shirts and stuff, so I knew there was something to them. And then I really fell in NoFX and Rancid. They're big. I think they were touring together at the time. There was a split that I did get. That was NoFX and Rancid, where they played each other's songs, which was kind of cool. But it wasn't really new songs, right? It was just these old songs they had, and that was the point. So there was no new music by NoFX that I had discovered, right? I all the records I'd listened to, like the first record I got from theirs was So Long, and Thanks for All the Shoes, and everything that I was listening to was already like old music, right, at the time. This one, I would remember it was like one of the first records I was waiting for the release. I had this EP that came out before, which was Regaining Consciousness, showing these zombie-like fucking people, and it's because of NoFX I read in 1984. And just the band really got me thinking. And so that album, that little EP had Frankie One American, Irrationality, Mediocre, great songs. And I remember I was just like, couldn't wait for the fucking record. And then it came out, and then the artwork of it was really cool. It was like, like we were saying something, like this was like, so more important than probably what it was. American flag with a picture of Bush. You wore that around, you showed people that, you can easily get people fucking offended, people were pissed off. You shouldn't be, disrespecting our president that way, man. Like, it was great. Being that young at the time too. And then, the CD cover was George Bush as a clown. And then the CD has this great, like, lineage about all the stuff he's writing. And it was also an enhanced CD. So I remember popping it up in the family computer. And you could watch Frank American video, and then there was all this stuff about like what happened, during the 2000 election and shit. And then the CD itself was great because every song had like all the lyrics, artwork for it. And so when you get to We Got You Jealous Against, which was quickly my favorite song on the fucking album, you can see all those records back there. And I remember I was like, oh my God, I need to go and find them all and buy them all. If this is what's making, NoFX makes such great music, that music must be that, that's the inspiration, then I gotta fucking dive in. And the first lyric, I already had that album, that was the Pistols. So I remember I was super excited. It's like, and it was two everything. And I was so excited about this album too. I went out and I sold a couple CDs and had had some money. And I remember I bought the record, which I still have to this day, of NoFX, that album. Because I was like, this artwork's so cool. I hung it up. I didn't even have a record player yet. But I bought it because of the artwork. So cool. And then, as NoFX does to me sometimes, to let me down, the inlay is this little fucking black and white sheet of paper. And then my favorite song on the album, right here, We Got You Jealous Kids. There's no CDs in the background or records or more in depth, nothing. There's actually less material, written material in here, black and white, not even colored. You got more on the CD, man. That was a letdown. I still have the record up. It was cool. And it was fun when I finally got a record. I can play it. I can play it at faster speed too. And just, I don't know, it's still by far like one of my favorite fucking NoFX albums, all time albums, actually, for me. I'll put into that. I mean, read the lyrics and I'll go over it with y'all one by one. Because this one was no tricks about it. This made me want to dive into other bands. Some of them I did already know though too. So anyhow, it goes. I thought you were the one when I heard Holidays in the Sun come from your bedroom. But my mind kind of started to stray when I saw You Love Today mixed with your singles. What's with this underdog and this GNR EP? I don't think Hanoi rocks, and I don't want your Paul Stanley next to my Subhuman's gatefold. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I don't think this record merger is gonna work. But when I saw Christ on Parade, and this is Boston, not LA, I knew you were the one. I knew you were for me when I saw the first Vandals EP. I found SNFU and cool, I own that record too. Seems we both had social unrest and sung She's a Pervert Nurse. We both had the first pressings of How Could Hell Be Any Worse? So now we got two Earth ADs, we got two Killing Jokes, we got two Adolescents, two P9s, and two Crews. We got two Someone Got Their Head Kicked Ins. We got two Declines, two Damaged, and two Jealous Agains. I knew you were the one. And then I can't even I hear how the breakdown is. The song's so good. When he goes, when I saw Machine Gun Etiquette, I knew you were the one. When I saw the Peace War comp, and then we got two Articles of Faith, 31 minutes of group sex. We got a couple of Avengers and a pair of Out of Steps. We got two What We Do Is a Secret. We got two TSOLs. We got two Freedom of Choices. We got three hits from Hells. I knew you were the one. So that first song, that first line, Holidays and Sun, I knew it. I was like, that's the Sex Pistols. Something about the Sex Pistols cool, and it's in there. Never mind the box. Here's the Sex Pistols. I was already obsessed with Pistols too. And so I was like, fuck yeah, man. This is awesome. And then all the other songs and stuff in there, I knew what I was singing about. All my friends or these fucking squares at school and shit, they didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. Kicked it, Killing Joe, social unrest. I thought I was cool, man. I was in a secret society. I was learning all that shit. And then when you find someone that knew that stuff too, it was even better. Jealous Against Black Flag, that's the title of the song. And I find that out right away. Okay, what's two jealous against Black Flag. Black Flag was probably one of the, especially amongst the punks and skaters at school. Black Flag was no, Henry Rollins had a show at the time, so there's no secret about Black Flag. A lot of the straight edge kids I remember liking too, because they have some of those songs, I was so wasted, which was cool because drugs was so rampant at the time that you either had to be super into the heavy drugs, and that was that was just because you were such a 1% on how bad the drugs were. That kind of made you cool, and probably from my perspective, probably not really. Or straight edge was cool because yeah, fuck all that shit, man. Like I don't need dope and stuff, which is really a good thing too. Um, Punk rock, it changed how get you through life and stuff, which I can explain later. But um, anyhow, yeah, that was the title in the Black Flag. And he mentions it again too, because obviously the title song got too jealous against, um, which that became my not the that wasn't the first album I was looking for. I was looking or EP or whatever, but um, anyhow, I was confused at the time too because he starts hating on GNR. That's obviously Guns N' Roses. Paul Stanley, that's Kiss. Like, how can you? Because in our world, it was like more just rock versus rap. Rap was becoming more and more mainstream, and rock was going mainstream. But like, rock was like the mainstream rock was weak. Grunge was going away, and it was these like um, happy-go-lucky kind of soft or sad, emotional rock songs. So it wasn't really cool anymore. It wasn't really aggressive, which I didn't get that. Like, we're Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle, all stuff, and Kiss I thought was cool. And Hanoi Rock. That's what my dad would listen to. My uncle, they were really into glam, so I knew that whole line. Paul Stanley knew who he was, Hanoi Rocks, and I was like, why doesn't he like those? But then he switches it up. So, um, and um, I don't think this record was going to work. But then Christ on Parade, the way that hits with Christ on Parade is when you're not supposed to use the word Christ. Um, it was just super uh, punk, man. I loved it. I wanted to find out what he was singing about. And I couldn't find Christ on Parade, but I was able to find it was like a various artists comp. Oh, this is Boston, not LA. And I was like, that's what, and I remember I was looking at it and I saw the cover and I was like, this is it. It was in like the various art section at my record store, as he is. And I found it, played it, and I think it was like the Freeze was on there, maybe Chroma. I forget all this stuff was, but I remember it was really fun and just it was almost too much. Like for me, though, it was fucking awesome. And then, but more so, the way he sings about it in "To Just Against" is what makes it even better. Like that line's better than the whole various artists come. But also because of that, that niched me into learning more about um, like East Coast punk bands. I don't know if it was exactly on there, but I remember there was like the Freeze was on there. Freaking um, again, I want to say Chromax. I found out about the Chromax through that like journey, if that makes sense. So just each one of these lines would just throw you off on this journey as you're in the record store and you find that record, whatever, and you're like, oh, maybe that record's too expensive, so you go and you buy the comp instead, price check and everything. So um yeah, it was freaking awesome. Then the next line, we got the first Vandals EP, and I forgot about this before, where I was like talking about Johnny Music. I was like, who's Johnny Two Bag? I was like trying to think. It was like, oh, that's who I was blanking on was the Vandals. Vandals were one of my favorite bands. They had Order the World. They said first Vandals EPs, Peace Through Vandalism. Fucking one of the greatest bands of all time. And again, I heard Oi to the World I think before, but then this record made me go and buy this song. Made me go and buy one of their records, man. And I was lucky. It was like used, so it was like $4, and I traded in. And then the CD I burnt. And then SNFU, I think I heard them on another comp somewhere. I don't know if it was like on the Punkoramas but somewhere I heard them, so I knew what he's talking about there. Social Unrest, again, fun band, not super great. I don't think I ended up buying their records, but I ended up I think downloading a couple of their songs on Napster or LimeWire. So I would throw them on my mix CDs. And then they go, we sung Pervert Nurse. And that's DI again. I talked about DI with Johnny Music it's the same album, right? It has Johnny's got a problem, Johnny's out of control. That's DI. DI is Pervert Nurse. And Pervert Nurse fucked me up, boy. Because, all right, first of all, back in 03, we had like a family computer. So you couldn't just like pop on, Pornhub in order, watch it like how you do DoorDash today, right? Like it was at 14 years old, it was very difficult to watch porn or something. So you had to really use your imagination. And the crush I had at the time, I remember I was talking to her, I was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? She was like, I want to be a nurse. And then I'm listening to freaking DI, Pervert Nurse, and we just and that's a bad song. If you read the lyrics and listen to it, it's like it kind of can start to help creating some fantasies, which it's a common one, so there's nothing too weird there. But um, that was more of my porn than like real porn was listening to that song. I listen to that, you know, uh, shamefully a little bit, right? Um, it was fun. That song would get me horny, man. DI was a band. That song specifically, Pervert Nurse. It's a bad nurse. Believe it. Listen to the song. It's fun, dude. But I remember getting my young mind wandering. Because you couldn't do anything. Like, I think the most we could do, like again, you didn't have like if you did go on your family computer, you got to make sure your parents weren't here, stuff like that. You always run this huge risk of fucking running into uh getting caught or fucking up the computer. Oh man, what happened one time was so bad was I printed out. I would go on, like my mom would go to the store, so I knew I had like 5, 15, 20 minutes, right? I'd give myself a little bit of time. I would try and print out the pictures one time where the printer was out. And so when she came in and she changed the printer, that she started printing out all the stuff I did. It was super embarrassing. But you'd either do that or you could get a magazine, hide it around your house. Otherwise, like out of my 3 friends at the time, uh, one of his parents had a VHS tape of porn. And it was weird because like DVDs were like rampant. Everyone had DVDs at the time, like VHS was old school, but their VHS player was actually in their bedroom. Um, which makes sense now, but I remember like one of us had to always like stand lookout, when we try and watch it, take turns, just watching these old school VHS tapes. And then of course, suddenly after, watching a little bit, we're all watching, we'd all have to, take a shit. Oh man, after we'll take a shit, we go in there, pretend the whole thing too, but you know what we were doing. Different time, different time. And that was like a whole, like that was like a lot of work. So usually it was just easy to listen to, music in my bed at night, sleeping, let your mind wander, imagination land. Um, and then it goes next into Bad Religion. That's the Hell Could Be Any Worse. That I know a lot of people fucking love that record. Bad Religion I knew from the Punkorama comps, and they actually had some solid radio time too. So Bad Religion was very well known band. I never was able to find. I found it much later, but like around that age type area, I found Recipe for Hate. I have the American Jesus, really good stuff on there. I never got the Hell Could Be Any Worse EP. Should have, wish I would have, or album, sorry. And then Misfits, Earth AD. That Misfits is again one of those bands I remember I fucking like. I don't think you see him on there. Yeah, in the picture you can see the Misfits Earth AD on there. But I remember like with the underground music, Misfits weren't getting played on the radio. And as a kid, I would always see the logo of that like Grim Reaper looking Misfit. And I was like, man, that music's gotta be, it's like some scary music, dude. I could never really, it took me a while till I was actually able to finally hear like a Misfit song. The first song I heard of the Misfits was by Metallica. My friend that was a huge like metal guy. He's like, oh, on this garage album, they cover a couple of Misfit songs. And I was like, oh, let me hear. I want to hear what like the lyrics are and stuff like that. And of course, it's like the most worst, Misfit songs ever. Die My Darling, Die My Darling, and Last Caress, which starts off killing babies, dude. It's just it pushes those limits right away. You're like, ooh, not as much as like TSOL, which they sing about again too. TSOL, that's another song that just can't play that song fucking alone. Code Blue. Anyhow, um, yeah, Killing Jokes. And they go back. They mentioned the Adolescents again. That was like just like a little on there. I never got too far on the Adolescents because it was just like how he's just singing along. I got more into it when I heard him sing about it again on Johnny Music. Kids in the Black Hole. I was like, oh, he sings about adolescence, this is adolescence, Ankaniba, and then that, again, that whole blue record. Freaking one of the best records ever, because it has Democracy, Rip It Up, Aniva, Adolescence. That blue record was great, and I know that's what he's got to be referencing here when he goes, "We got two Adolescents." It has to be that record. I imagine there's not no ways on it. I mean, that fucking record's the best record. And then Rudimentary Peni. Never really got a chance to listen to that one. I don't think I found it. I was looking a lot, and when you're asking again, what's so great about punk names and punk songs, punk albums and stuff, you just get looked at, man, in the record store, like, can we help you find anything? I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for, Peni. He's like, what the fuck am I even saying? Like, you're like, just, nah, I'm good. Please just leave me alone. You can't help me find anything. Which the 7 Seconds, The Crew. I did find that one. I didn't like that album too much. Though. I don't know what it was. 7 Seconds never really hit me as much as other people did. I know there's some really huge 7 Seconds fans. I remember I got that record CD or whatever, and I burnt it and I sold it back. The next time someone got their head kicked in, I love that because that was like such a freaking line too. And as you're singing it, amongst friends that probably don't know that song, it sounds like you're really part of something more, like again, like some secret club or whatever. But I do remember specifically that was another one I was in the record store that, can I help you find anything? And I was like, yeah, I'm looking for someone got their head kicked in. It's rock and roll, man. They looked at me like, I don't think we have that one, sir. Yeah, you don't. The next line confused me for a while too, because it said we got 2 declines. And when I look at the declines, NOFX had already put out their decline, which was Masterpiece. So I didn't really quite get it for a little bit until I kept looking. I saw the decline in the artwork, which again, this is why the CD was so much better. The record wouldn't even have this, and I was like, no, there's something else going on. There's some decline. I started to remember Google Golden's Little Adventures, and then finally I found about the Germs, Darby crashed, and the decline of Western civilization. It's like this picture of a Darby like passed like on the floor or something too. And it was a movie. I couldn't find a CD about it, but I found a movie, and I watched that movie. It was like the decline of Western civilization. It was all about this like 80s punk and stuff, and that's partially where I learned about X as well, and then the Germs, and that record was fucking amazing, and then Circle Jerks as well, which I think we're about to get into. So then he talks about the Black Flag damages again, freaking the whole song title is about Black Flag. I don't think we need to go more into how great Black Flag is, Henry Rollins specifically. Fucking amazing. And then again, the way the music transitions to, where it goes the Machine Gun Etiquette and the Peace War Comp, those, I was searching, trying to find those, man. Those were amazing, especially the way he sings about it. And then Articles of Faith, do yourself a favor. Give that a listen. And then group sex too. I liked how he said 31 minutes of group sex, because I was like, what does he tell us? Then I found out, like, okay, so Circle Jerks, group sex, 15.5 minutes. So if you have 2 of them, it's 31 minutes. That was funny, and that's what I like about songs. You could listen to that whole fucking record. You could listen to that record twice. And one up, in a 30-minute, sitcoms on like The Simpsons or something, I could just go and listen to group sex twice. Fucking loved it, man. Avengers is a compilation. Great. And then Minor Threat again, with the whole straight edge like revival that came out around that time, and kind of finding Minor Threat, and also NOFX covers straight edge by Minor Threat later in one of their previous records. Minor Threat was great, really, really awesome. And then the Germs, not only did it come from the decline stuff too, but I remember this right here. They said, "What we do is a secret." That's the album I had. I'm like, what do we do? They're asking, "What are you looking for in the store, sir?" Like, I'm looking for what we do is a secret. They're like, okay, this kid's just here's the crazy kid again. But that fucking record, the Germs, so amazing. TSOL again. TSO really, pushed the limits with stuff. I remember I heard TSO first on the Punk Around 1 or 2 with Code Blue, and that. You can't play that song on a first date with a girl. You won't get a second one. It's all about, which I just love. It's like such a test of like freedom of speech and what you can say and stuff. I mean, the song's about necrophilia, for crying out loud. And it's TSOL is just one of the greatest bands of all time. I really, really went down TSOL route too. And then you kind of find out they mixed in with Slay, like they had a whole history of TSOL, they were hard, man. Devo, Freedom of Choice, interesting. Not big Devo fan. And then Misfits, we talked about them as well. And that's the 3 hits from Hell, which I like just the way it ends. We got 3 hits from Hell. I was like, because then I was like, so if they did that with 31 minutes of group sex, is it like 1.5 hits from Hell? Like, how they know it's actually just 3 hits from Hell? Since we got 3 hits from Hell, so it made sense. So really, they have 6 hits from Hell. One of the greatest songs of all fucking time, man. This one here. It's so fast, so it was transparent too. Like it wasn't like Johnny Music where you gotta find out. Maybe that was better, but this one was a fast freaking song too. So fun, would pump you up, and then when they would leach out those lyrics, it sounded so much like cooler too. When you could sing along with it and know what they're singing and everything, and people wouldn't know what the fuck, we got 2 kid kicked ins. People were like, and that was the beauty of this one was for me. People didn't really know what you were singing about, except for other punks that would get into it, and then you find out all these again gateway. This song alone was like the catalog when I go into a record store. Okay, I want to find this one, Like it was like that might maybe like a shopping list to go into the fucking record store. I loved it. Thank you for this song, really, because the song fucked me up because then all these other songs really, really messed me up. Changed my life. Didn't mess me up, they made me better. Like little first dabs into straight edge too. So I think that's all I gotta really say about this one, folks. This was a fun song. Yeah. Can't think of anything else on there besides how fast this song is, how fun it is. It was the best song on the record for a while. I mean, all the others, remember, I already had the EP of Franco and American and shit, so, yeah. All right, guys. I don't know why I did that. I'm going to do this, like peace and this or something, but I can't like that, so yeah. Keep rocking.